Hello and welcome back. I hope you had a chance to play around with Tableau in terms of the new functionality that we discussed where you can have several charts on one worksheet. And that in turn brings quite a few tabs over here in the marks pane so you can control the charts separately. And today, as promised, we're going to talk a bit about stats and in particular the chi-squared test. But don't worry, it's not going to be heavy stats. We'll just cover off some like basic intuitive things. The heavy stats, or not even so heavy stats, the main discussion about chi-squared, I've taken it out and put it into two separate tutorials that are at the end of this section. So feel free to check it out if you do want to get into the nuts and bolts of chi-squared and understand it a bit better. However, today we're just going to look at the practical application of chi-squared. So what is the whole reason we're doing this? Why do we want to look at the statistical significance and learn about it a bit more? Well, the reason is all of these results that we are seeing here, they're great. Like we can see that it looks like it's pretty obvious that, for instance, age has a significant impact on the choice of people to stay with the bank or not. You can see that these age groups are more likely to leave. These age groups are less likely to leave. Let's look at another one. Say we can see that here's gender. We can see that gender has a significant impact. So being a male customer or female customer impacts or there's an association between gender and the choice to stay or with the bank or leave the bank. However, as you recall, I've mentioned a couple times that this is not the hard statistical test. So it is just a visual interpretation or a visual improvisation of the test. Well, how do we get confident with this visual improvisation? How can we be sure that what we're reporting is actually the result and that we can use this as insights to drive business decisions and we can communicate this to managers and executives? Because we all agree that if we have an insight but we're not totally sure about it, then it's kind of not the best idea to report it probably, or you wouldn't feel as comfortable. So that's why we need the chi-squared test. And basically what the chi-squared test will tell us is this result a statistically significant result? So as simple as that. The chi-squared test will tell us we do observe this difference in the sample, so in our 10,000 records. Well, is this a random difference? So has it happened by chance that there's a difference between female and male? Or is this a consistent difference? Can we surely confidently say that in the whole population of the bank, which can be 1 million customers, which can be 10 million customers, can we confidently say that we will observe a similar discrepancy, a similar difference in the whole population of the bank? That's all the chi-squared test does. It can tell us whether it's just by chance or there is an actual difference that can be and will be observed in the population. So how do we run this chi-squared test? Once again, there's more details in the last two tutorials of this section, and if you do wish to dive into that, please go ahead and check those out, because there I talk about how to run it in Excel and all the details about chi-squared. But here I will just show you some online tools that are very quick and can help you do these things very ad hoc. So I'm going to bring up a browser now, and there are two websites that we're going to be looking at. The first one is www.evanmiller.org/ab-testing/chi-squared.html. So you can find lots of these websites. Just if you Google for chi-squared test online, you'll find quite a lot, but I kind of fancy this one, so we'll talk about this one to start with. What you have to do here is basically input your values. So now the rule number one here, an important rule, is that with chi-squared you cannot use percentages. You have to use the actual values. So if you put percentages in here, you will get a wrong result. So getting back to the actuals is very easy. I'm just going to go back to our Tableau worksheet. Here I'm going to duplicate the tab, duplicate the sheet, and I'll call it gender actuals, or you can call it absolutes. And here we just need to replace the table calculation. So I'll just take number of records, drag it into here, and then drag it into here as well. So there are our absolute values, and now we can input them into our tool. The only thing is that we'll also need the absolute total. So for each of these columns, a quick way of doing that is we go to edit, or right click the axis, go add reference line, and then we'll just sum, and then we want the sum, right, and we want it per cell. So we want just the sum to appear at the top so that we have it for our reference purposes, and we want it per every cell. And here we don't want the computation, we want the value. That's just a quick way of bringing up the sum without changing your chart. And now I'm going to bring back the online tool. So all I have to input here is I'm going to get rid of these values. So sample one, it's this one. And we're going to look at, you can choose any one of these as success, stayed, or exited. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to choose exited as success in floating quotation marks. And so I'm going to type in here 1139. The total number of trials, or not, the total number of observations in this category is 4,543, 4,543. And here it's 898. And the total number of observations 5457. Okay, so what can we see here? There's a verdict. Sample one is more successful, meaning that this female customers have a higher exit rate, and it is statistically significant. Here you can see this p-value is less than 0.001. We don't talk about p-values right now, and what you will find is that basically if the p-value is less than 0.05, so less than 5%, then it's a statistically significant result. So in our case, you can see that it is more likely, it is going to be the same in the overall population of the bank. You can confidently say that female customers are more likely to exit. That's how you use a chi-squared test using this tool, or any other tool basically. Just follow the instructions that it gives you here. Let's look at another one. So we've validated this one, and sometimes when, say, you validate something, I like to change the color of the tab, right-click the tab and maybe change it to green, so that in the future you know that this is a validated result. You've checked the chi-squared test and you're 100% sure that you can report this observation. Well, basically this observation and these numbers were used to check the chi-squared test. Now let's look at a different one. Let's look at has credit card. Same thing here, right? So we want to duplicate, or even faster, if you just duplicate this sheet, right? And then you take the color off because we haven't validated yet, and you rename it has credit card, actuals, and then here you just need to change gender, replace it with has credit card, and there you go. So once again, Tableau, drag and drop, super awesome. Get rid of the label here so that you can see the total values. And let's go back to our tool. Okay, so here we've got different values. Let's put them in, right? Sample one, successes 613, trials 2,945. Successes 1424, trials 7055. All right, so verdict, no significant difference. P is very high, greater than 5%, no significant difference. And as you can see from here, it's hard to tell, but we already knew that. We already said that there's no significant difference just by looking at this chart over here. And that speaks of how great this template is. You can't tell with statistical significance, but just by looking at this, you can say probably there's no difference. 21%, 20% doesn't really doesn't really sound like a significant difference. So, and this tool has validated that for us, so we can now confidently report this finding. So I'm going to change the color of this tab to green over here, and there we go. So that's how you use a chi-squared test in the case when you have two categories. So basically what we're doing here is an A/B test. If you noticed, we're just doing an A/B test. We're just validating it through a chi-squared test. What we're going to do in the next tutorials, I'll show you quickly how to approach the situation when you have more than 2 categories. So when you might have 3 categories like we have in country, or you might have many categories like we have in age. And for now, as a suggestion, you could practice with a different variable. For instance, we've done gender, we've done has credit card. How about is active member? So you could practice this exercise with is active member and see if you can confirm that there is a statistical significance between these two. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, happy analyzing.